Hello, my name is Bella, and welcome to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast. This is a podcast where I show you all that I am making every week, and that's usually knitting related, sometimes some sewing and other fiber arts stuff in there too. But today is going to be all about knitting and also some acquisitions, also related to knitting. So I am recording this episode on a Saturday. It's going to be going up on a Sunday, and then the next day is going to be Valentine's Day. So I kind of can't believe that we're already in February even, and then Valentine's Day we're even almost to the middle of February. So time seems to be going a lot faster than it did, let's say, last year or the year before. But yes, I hope you've been having a good week, and if you have any Valentine's Day plans, I hope they're very enjoyable, and I hope you get some knitting done too. So if you would like to find me elsewhere, I am also on Instagram and Ravelry at 100 Acre Wool, and on those places I post all of the details to all my projects, well, for Ravelry at least, and then Instagram it's just, more updates on how my projects are going and things that are happening in my life. And then, as with all of my knitting podcasts, actually all of my videos, I always put everything that I talk about in the description below this video. So if you're curious about something I say, whether that's yarns or designers or patterns or anything like that, just anything I discuss, all of that information is below. So yeah, and with that, I think we'll just get into it. So today I have some whips to share with you. Actually, I have two finished objects. Wow, that never happens. So we'll go for that first, and then some whips, and then some acquisitions. So a lot to go over today. So first, the finished objects. Oh wow, these have been in the works for I think a year, almost a year. Haven't been working on them for that long of a time, but that's how long they've been on my needles and been needing to happen. So anyways, my grandma, I had knit her. Let's step back a second. Last Christmas, not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before that, I had knit her this hat. I will put a picture here because I don't have it. It is hers. So I knit her this hat and for Christmas, as a Christmas gift. And once I gave it to her, she really wanted a matching pair of mittens and also socks. And there was no pattern for this hat. I kind of made it up. It's a long story. Anyways, I go over it in previous episodes. She wanted a matching set to go with it. So I've had it on the needles for quite some time, and I really felt like it was time to get it off the needles and get it done with. So it's finally done. So here is the rest of the matching set, and I'm so happy how they came out. I'm so happy they're done. Let's go over the socks first. So these socks actually were finished a little while ago, and when I was able to go visit my grandma and have her try them on, because I don't live with her, when I had her try them on, this top portion, the ribbing at the top, was way too tight for her, and it's kind of colorwork knitting, so there's two color work, and I guess my tension was a bit too tight. So she wasn't even able to get it over her ankles. So there was no way that was going to work. But so this past week I fixed it and they're much more stretchy now. I think they'll definitely work for her now. So, but yeah, the rest of the sock was done beforehand. So what I did not redo the entire sock. I only redid the top portion of the ribbing because that's what was too tight. The rest of the sock I think would have been fine. We compared it to her other socks and it was fine. But yeah, so the ribbing at the top, I did kind of a little knitting surgery with this one. So the way that I did the surgery for these socks is I cut at the very top portion of the blue portion of the main body of the sock. I cut there and ripped out an entire row, and then you're left with some live stitches, so I put all of those live stitches back on a needle. And then I just went along and cast on, because I worked these top down. So I went along and I recast on the ribbing portion and knit all the way down the ribbing as normal without the rest of the sock attached, just the ribbing, knitting down. And then once I was done with the ribbing, I made one row of the blue just so that I had a kind of a transition point where it was just all stockinette. And then I did a Kitchener stitch to seam it all together and make it one sock again. So I think it came out pretty well. You can see there's a little, like, very minute difference in the tension on just one row where the Kitchener stitch actually happened, where I joined them. Yeah, this is a pretty simple technique. So if you ever feel the need to kind of surgery your socks or surgery anything, you can do this with a sweater, a shawl, anything like that. I've only ever done it on stockinette because that's the easiest. It's the same stitch for the whole round or row. So I would definitely recommend at least starting with stockinette if you are going to be doing some surgery. But I've done this method a lot of times if I knit a sweater too long or too short, you can just put the stitches back on the needle and either take some away and then Kitchener stitch them together or keep knitting. So actually, if you were to keep knitting, you wouldn't need to do Kitchener stitch. Anyways, yeah, it worked out well, I think. So yeah, that's a little handy tip there if you have never done Kitchener stitch for that. I've done Kitchener stitch before for like toes in socks, where you just have a few stitches. That's actually how these were because they were worked top down. So usually people do a Kitchener stitch for the toe, but in this case it was surgery, but it worked out. So yeah, those are finally finished, hooray, and I think those will work out for her. And then the next portion of the set for her are some mittens, some Colorwork mittens. So for these ones, again, I didn't have a pattern for any of these. Actually, for the socks, I used Woolen Vine's free sock pattern. I think that's what it's called. If it's not I'll link it down below if you're curious. But for the socks, that's the pattern I used. But for these, I did not have a pattern. So I kind of just made them up. I took some measurements, had a gauge, and kind of just figured it out with the chart and how big I should make the chart. But I kind of took the chart that I used for the hat and meshed it into a mitten shape. And yeah, I really like how they came out. One is very slightly bigger than the other because I knit these like half a year apart, I think. I knit these quite a bit apart, which was really bad. I knit this whole one this week, and I knit this one like last year at some point. So they're a little bit different. I really tried in the blocking to like fix or straighten them out. I really did try in the blocking to make them the same size, and I think when you're wearing them, when you're wearing them, they definitely feel fine. They don't feel like totally mismatched, if that makes sense. So I think she will love these. I hope she will love these. Ah, they're so cute. And they're very warm. Whew. That's good. These are made out of Drops alpaca yarn. And so are the socks. The main body of the socks is Drops Nepal, which the Nepal has, I believe, some polyamide in it. It's like a alpaca, I'm just going off the top of my head. I think it's alpaca and wool and polyamide, and I thought the polyamide for socks would probably be better. Add some more support, make them last longer, perhaps. But just for the top here, though, these are the same colors as the mittens, so those are all Drops alpaca. So the mittens are just so lovely and soft. Oh. Kind of want to keep them myself, but no, these are for my grandma. They are going to her. So I hope she's going to love them. I really spent a lot of time and effort on these because I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of little color work in there. So and a lot of tiny little stitches and on my magic loop going in around and a teeny little, you can see the thumb. These are the first mittens, like real true mittens I've made, so that was fun. Yeah, so I'm really happy those are finished. Hopefully she will love them. And next, I have been a good girl and been working on my whips. Yay! So my next update is for my Yell cardigan. Hooray, I'm getting back to it, finally. Oh my gosh. The Yell cardigan, again, also, like the project I just showed you, has been in the works for a very long time, and I want to get it finished. I really love how it's coming out, and I want to wear it, so we're getting it done. So this week I did pretty much one of the entire arms. Actually, I think I had knit a little bit of this before, but pretty much finished one of the whole arms. And I would put it on for you, but I have a bulky sweater on, so I don't think it's going to fit. But yeah, I really like how this is coming out. And I did a little fudging of the pattern for this sleeve, or I'm going to be for both of the sleeves. This is the first sleeve I'm making. Have to knit another one. And also the body, I'll show you in a second. The body is almost done. Well, sort of. Anyways, I'm doing a little fudging of the pattern for the arms. So the way the pattern is worked is the body is knit bottom up, and then the arms are knit top down. You kind of pick up, it's a drop shoulder, and you pick up stitches for the sleeve, and then you knit down. But I didn't want that. I wanted the stitches to all be facing the same way, so all the V's be going up like this, so that because if you knit from the bottom up for both the body and the sleeves, then all the V's will be like this on the colorwork. So I wanted them to match. So I did a little fudging of the pattern, and instead of knitting down, I started knitting bottom up. So I cast on here, and now I'm knitting up. And I also am doing a different width of the sleeve itself. In the pattern, the sleeve kind of tapers towards the bottom. It's bigger towards the armpits, and then it kind of tapers down towards your wrist and gets smaller in. But I didn't want that. I wanted it to be just straight the whole way. So I took the measurement of my underarm where I thought it would join with the body, probably about here. And then, yeah, made the entire thing that width, I guess you could say, circumference. So yeah, it's pretty much straight all the way down. There was a little bit of a change with this colorwork change. The repeats weren't the same, so I had to do a little fudging with the stitches, but I think it's going to work out, and once I block it, I think it'll all be smooth and seamless. Which, by the way, if you would like to know how I block my woolens, this kind of a knitting, this project I'm knitting with Jamieson & Smith and Jamieson's of Shetland wool. So very woolly wool, very toothy, very textured, very rustic kind of a wool. So if you have projects like that, if you have knitting like that you want to block, I have a video. I just made a tutorial on how I block these kinds of projects. So I will link it up somewhere up here. And maybe if you're curious to see what I do, or if you would like to, do it yourself, by all means, go for it. So this has just been so much fun to knit. I was kind of nervous about knitting sleeves, or at least these sleeves, because it is all colorwork, 100% colorwork all the way through. And in my past colorwork experiences with smaller circumference, I've had a little issue with tension on the edges. So if you're doing magic loop, then on the edges where your needles switch, sometimes with colorwork, especially for me at least, you can have a little tension issues. So sometimes you can get laddering, or even the stitches may be too tight on the edges. So it just makes it look kind of wonky a little bit. And I wanted these to be as perfect as I could make them. So, oh, I'm losing stitches. That's okay, because these don't unravel easily. Anyways, I wanted to point out the needles that I'm using. So the needles that I'm using are 9-inch circulars, which this was my first foray. This was my first go at using 9-inch circulars. This was the first project I did it on. I actually recently used them also to make the top of the socks. Used 9-inch circulars to reknit the ribbing here. And I really love them. Oh my goodness, I really, really love them. Because you can just keep going around and around and around. You never have to stop. You never have to, fudge your needles around. It's just a small circumference. And it's adorable. How cute is that? So, yeah, it's really made it a joy to do this, because if I was trying to do color work for this amount of work, or for this amount of stitches, and also for another arm, and then maybe the tension wouldn't even work out well, I was just not going to do that. So I'm really happy with these 9-inch circulars. I think they're Chiaogu. Yeah, they have the red cords, so I think they're Chiaogu, which that's what I usually use for my knitting needles. Yeah, so highly recommend 9-inch circulars if you haven't used them before. I would really recommend them for sleeves or socks or anything small circumference. Yeah, I think they work out great, and it just makes your knitting fly so much more, and to me, it makes it more fun. So that's the arm, and the body is getting there. I haven't done any work on this since we last spoke. That's how big it is. I still have to rip back, which I've been... I really don't want to. I talked about this at a previous episode that I'm going to need to rip back some of this because I knit it too long. You know how that goes. But I was noticing that I made this not as wide as the pattern says. So I'm wondering, can I just leave it and will I have enough yarn? I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to rip it back, or maybe I'll rip it back less than I thought I would, because I thought I was going to have to rip back like 3 inches, which I don't want to do that. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, but that's where that project is at, and I'm so happy I was able to knit a sleeve in a week, so maybe if I do the same next week, it's going to be chugging along. We're going to be getting there. So after getting some really good progress done on that project, and then also having pretty much 3 finished objects recently, I had my Anne Boleyn cardigan jacket, and then these other 2 things that I just shared with you. I felt like I was doing well, and I felt like I deserved a new cast on, something small, something cute. So this is also something from my Make 9 plans for this year. So from the Lina 52 Weeks of Sock book, I chose a pattern for slippers. So yesterday, actually, I cast on the Alicja Slippers. I think that's how you say them. Excuse me if I'm wrong on that. I think they're pronounced the Alicja Slippers. They're by Soprano Knits, and yeah, they're part of the 52 Weeks of Socks by Lina book. And I just think they were such a beautiful, beautiful pattern. I really wanted some more comfy and warm footwear to wear around the house because my feet get really cold. We have wood floors and it's slippery, so I always like to wear something on my feet. And I thought that slippers would be kind of a fun little difference from socks, because I think, you know, there's a lot of sock knitting patterns out there, but it seems like there's not as many slippers. And I have some quite bulky yarn in my stash that I was also wanting to get through. So this project is all with stash. It uses a couple of different colors, but I'm using all stash yarns for this one. And this is how it's coming out. Only gotten a little bit done on it so far, but I'm really loving how it's coming out so far. It's just so sweet and delicate. So it's got a little V shape of baubles here at the front, and I have started on the foot opening at the top where your foot actually goes into. So they're really, really cute. I think they're going to go by pretty quickly. I haven't really spent very much time on this at all. Like I said, I just cast them on last night. So yeah, I'm really loving how they're coming out so far. And I was a little bit nervous about my yarn choice. The pattern does call for a DK weight yarn, and I really wanted to use this yarn that I have for this project, but it is definitely not a DK weight yarn. So this yarn was so kindly gifted to me by Alexandra of the November Woods Fiber Co. And she had also sent me a little package of fiber to start spinning. I had told her how I wanted to start spinning, and she so kindly gifted me fiber to do that, but also added some other little goodies in there, and this skein was one of them. So I already caked it up. She gave it to me as a skein. But we have no idea what this is. I think it's hand spun. It's kind of uneven in the thickness of the yarn throughout. So, and it's also a single ply. So I feel like it's hand spun. It looks like a hand spun. But as for fiber content and where this came from, we have no idea. I had asked Alexandra about it because I thought it was so cool and so unique. So she said that someone had gifted it to her, and then now she's gifting it to me. So it's been like a traveling pants situation with this yarn, I feel. It's kind of cool. But yeah, it feels really good. I'm assuming it's 100% wool. I don't think there's anything else in here. And it also has quite a bit of lanolin still left in it, I think. I definitely get that more sheepy feel from this one. But I really love that. I love the softness of lanolin. So that's what I chose to make the socks out of. Really like how they're working, really like how this yarn is working up. I wish I knew where it was from though, because I like it so much I want to get more, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's quite soft and bouncy and very muchy. But I would say it's probably like a worsted to even bulky weight or Aran weight. Maybe it's Aran weight, which is definitely larger than DK. But I was thinking that these are slippers, and if they are denser than intended, then I'm okay with that because it's going to be on my feet, and I would rather have slippers that are too dense than too thin, if that makes sense. So I'm really liking the fabric that is working up out of this. I think they're going to fit me like a glove, and they're going to be so warm. There are no holes in this. You can absolutely, like when you stretch it even, there are no holes. And the pattern calls for US size 2 needles as well. So just think about Aran weight with US size 2 needles. That is dense fabric. But I really like that for this pattern in particular. So yeah, I'm just really very much enjoying this so far. And I think it's a really cool way that she's doing this, that Soprano Knits designed the pattern. There's going to be some other colors in here, so let me show you that. I had picked out a few other contrast colors. There's a little tassel, and then there's also some little colorwork details, but she has you do those at the end as like a duplicate stitch throughout the whole thing. Which I think is just so smart so that you don't have any other ends to weave in. The sock itself, the slipper itself is all knit out of one yarn. So to me, it seems like it would be sturdier that way. And then you just do duplicate stitch on top with the little details of other colors. So I'm also going to be using this gold, which is Alpaca 2 by Isayer. This is some leftovers from my shawlography. And then I'm also going to use some Jamieson and Smith. Jamieson and Smith. This little guy is Jamieson and Smith. And some more of the Drops Alpaca. I think I'll do something with these guys. And yeah, we'll see how that works out. But yeah, it's a great little project to have on the needles, I think. Working up great. It's going to be super fast, I think. Really easy to follow the pattern so far. Really well written. And yeah, I think that's all I'll say about it for today. So that's been a very fun project to work on. And now I think we will get into the acquisitions portion of the podcast. So a couple of weeks ago, on February 1st, I placed an order with, forgive me if I say this wrong, Honor och Air. I don't speak Swedish. They're a Swedish yarn company, and they make Nutiden yarn, which is an unspun, very rustic woolly yarn, 100% wool of different breeds. And I have heard about this yarn. I've known about this yarn for quite some time, but it's really hard to get your hands on. It's one of those things that when they have an update, it just goes. But for this collection, for the February collection, I fell in love with, honestly, all of the yarns. But, oh my gosh, I just got carried away. So I did end up making a purchase from them, and the yarn literally just arrived today. So I have just been so excited to use it all day. I just want to cast on all the things with it. It's so special. So let me get it over here. So I got, let's see, the February collection had 6 colors, but 2 of them were already sold out by the time I got there. I honestly would have loved to get all of them. They're just so beautiful. Oh my gosh. But anyways, I ended up getting 4 of the February collection colors. So that is Snow. Again, excuse me if I'm saying these wrong. So this one is Snow, and Versen, and Use, and Tunet, and Bergtagen, I think is how you say it. So all of them except Use in the middle, all of them are from the February collection, and they are just, oh, they are a dream. Literally like a pillow. A pillow, if you could go and hug a sheep, this is, I think, what I would feel like. Oh my goodness. It's such beautiful yarn. Oh man. So, like I said, it is unspun, and so it's quite delicate from what I've heard. If you pull on it, it will break. You have to kind of knit with it a very specific way. Sorry, let me put those down. Okay, so yeah, it's unspun, so let me see if I can get some out for you. Can you see that? Yeah, it's like a fingering weight, but if you pull it far apart, it will just break. But if you pull it closer together, when you're still holding on to both ends of a fiber, of one fiber length, it doesn't break. So it seems like something that would be a little bit of a challenge to work with, to actually knit with, but once you get the hang of it, it'll probably be good. But once it's knitted up, it's perfectly sturdy. It's not going to fall apart on you because those knit stitches are smaller than the fiber length. So it actually is kind of magical how it ends up working out. And the colors that it comes in are just so, I don't even have words. Yeah, they're just so magical to me. The way that they blend the fiber, this is one of my favorite fiber preps, is when they dye it in the wool and then they blend different colors of fiber and spin it up that way, or in this case, don't spin it up. So that's how the new to Den yarn is made, is they dye it up in these big vats, different colors, and then they blend different colors together to create each of the colorways. So this one in particular, Ljus, which means light in Swedish, this one I think is so cool. It literally has a world of color in here. And I'll put a closer up picture so you can see what I'm talking about. And so it's really cool because from far away it looks kind of like a pale pink, but then when you look up it in person and also in just close at it, there's just so many colors, greens, oranges, purples, yellow, like all of the colors of the rainbow I feel are in this. So nice. So I really love that color. And then also this one, Tunet. I was so excited about this one. This one in particular was very inspirational to me. I was watching one of Caroline's podcasts, which Caroline is the maker behind this, or one of the makers behind this yarn. I think she comes up with the colorways herself. So yeah, and she was talking about her inspiration behind this colorway, and that it's kind of, it means courtyard. Tunet means courtyard. So it's kind of the middle of, or it's in between kind of society and, modern society, and then also the wild and the wilderness. So I thought that was just such a lovely sentiment to put into a yarn and to have be your inspiration. And I definitely feel that from this colorway. It's like a cool and warm tone green, very light, very delicate green. So I really love this one. I did get a sweater's quantity of this color, and I have a new design planned for it. So yeah, this was definitely very inspirational for me. I'm going to be playing with this as soon as I can and mocking up something new, doing a little swatch, and we'll see what it becomes. But this one again has like so many colors in it, just different shades of greens and whites and grays and yellow even. So beautiful and delicate. And Cardigan, this one, oh, actually I forgot to say, Tunet is also very soft. Depending on their blends, they have different blends of fiber in them. So the way that they prepare their yarn, not all of the colorways have the same fiber content in them. So some of them, they have fine wool, different crossbreeds, things like that. So Tunet in particular, Caroline was saying that they used a new blend to them that was particularly soft. And I will say it is softer than the other ones here. It is definitely noticeable in my opinion. So Oh, it's just so lovely. You could just take a nap. It's just a pillow. Mm. um, yes, if you have never tried Nutiden or unspun yarn, I would highly recommend doing so. um, it's very unique, and I think that everyone should be able to see this in person. It's very special. So yes, Cardigan. This one I also got a larger sweaters quantity of because this really reminded me of my dad, and I think he would look great in a sweater with this one. But this one also very soft, very beautiful. This one I think is all natural colors, natural tones. So I don't think any of this is dyed. I think they use different breeds with the different grays and lighter tones in there. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What else can I say? And Velsen, it's a really light, dusty pink. It's kind of a cream, and then with little hints of pink thrown in there. And Snow, which is so big and fluffy. Oh my goodness, can you see? It weighs nothing, absolutely nothing. These are each 100 grams, so each of these plates are 100 grams. But from what I have heard from other knitters who have knit with this, is when you knit it up, it makes whatever you're knitting so light and airy. And I just think whatever I knit with these is going to be so comfortable and soft. That's another thing I'll say about these. The Tunit is the softest out of all the ones that I've purchased, but all of them are so soft. Like I compare them to like Jameson and Smith and Jamesons of Shetland. Those are also, I would say, a rustic wool. You know, the toothiness is still there. This is very minimally processed. But yeah, I was just comparing how they feel, and this is like loads softer, like totally different in the feeling of it. So maybe also if you tend to be a little more sensitive to wool, give this a try, because I do think it's very, very much softer, and the fact that it's so light and airy probably aids in that. So yeah, I don't want to go too much. I don't want to bore you with it. I'm just so excited, and it's so inspirational, and I just really love when makers do things with such passion, and yeah, it's really inspiring, and this yarn is beautiful. So if you do want to try it, I would highly recommend it. And with that, that's everything I have to share with you today. So I hope you enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, please do consider subscribing and liking this video if you're not already subscribed. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.